Hello, Ryan.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. It's a sort of the David Brent introduction that everyone loves about Follow Everton. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Follow Everton. I'm Ryan, the channel manager. I've got Jan with me today to round up to this weekend's Premier League results and reflect on a great win against Leeds. So thank you for joining. And of course, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. And for everyone else, hit the like button, turn notifications on. Jan, nice to actually wake up after a Saturday, a win. You know, isn't it? Isn't it lovely to wake up, sorry, on a Sunday morning and actually have won a game of football on a weekend rather than feeling miserable about another defeat?
Yeah, it's I mean, I was leaving the ground, just walking past people because you know what I'm like. I'll just talk to anyone. I think that's why I've ended up on the channel. I was walking home, or walking back to the, out of the ground, going, "Is this real? What is this feeling?" It's like a relief. It's joy. It's confusion. It's madness. Yeah, it's just mental. It's absolutely crazy. It's yeah. But just a quick one anyway. Oh
Yeah.
God. All right, the Blues. All right, David. All right, Mr. Toffees. All right, Luke. How you doing, mate? All right, Paul and Emma. Hello. Yeah,
Yeah,
I never
thank
know.
you for
Good evening.
joining. I mean,
Mark.
go
Well,
on.
I was just going to jump into it. Mark Spurrier has already jumped in there and said, "Great win." He's a little bit peeved that Saints and Bournemouth got away with wins as well. Makes some sort of joke about the cherry on top, but um, yeah. Did that sort of temper your feelings a little bit towards the end of the evening?
Hang on, sorry. I've literally just shared the stream to Twitter just to say reviewing this weekend's games, including our great
Okay.
win.
Well,
Go on,
while
ask
you're
me the
doing that,
question again. Go on.
well, Mark Spurrier just said, "Great win." He's a little bit peeved that Saints and the Cherries got away with the win as well. I mean, ultimately, it's still in our hands. But did that kind of temper your joy and elation?
The results of the other teams.
Yeah.
To be fair to you, I was quite frustrated to see that Chelsea had lost to Southampton. But I think we have to focus on ourselves. I mean, as much as we're relying on other teams to kind of fall away, I think we've got to accept, and we'll talk about the results in a moment, but we've got to accept that the league this season is very competitive. We haven't got a couple of teams who've come up from the championship who are, struggling every week, losing 4-5-0. We haven't got a Norwich, we haven't got a Sheffield United, we haven't got one of those trademark
It's more
shambolic
equitable.
teams. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether that's because the wealth of the league is spread out quite well, but there doesn't seem to be any poor teams. I mean, I even look at West Ham today; they lost. We'll talk about results. I do want to focus on Everton first, but
Yeah.
they look solid. I mean, there's no textbook sides that look particularly bad that are languishing at the bottom on 2, 3, 4, 5 points, who can't
No
buy a win, can't
Sunderland's.
score a goal. Yeah, so as our win was fantastic, but it would have been nice to have some other results go away. But I really do feel this season it's going to be so tight, and we can't rely on any other teams to we can't be relying on other teams to not get results. We've got to take it into our own hands.
Yeah. Um, I mean, you'd think that the results as they're going and the games we've got to play, you'd say, what is it, 7 more wins or 20
Mm.
points would be safety.
Well, what have we got now? We've got
21.
21 points. So I mean, to be honest, normally 36 to 37 points in a bad season would keep you up. But I really do think you need to hit 40 this season, just because I think that
Yeah.
Bournemouth and Southampton aren't that bad. They're not that
Well,
bad. They're not like as we talked about, they're not one of those teams getting 4-5 nilled every
but when
week.
you
They're just
okay, but when you well, okay, firstly, what I would say is in contrast to that, before you go down that, they're not that bad. Their goal differences are Bournemouth -23, Southampton -21, right? Ours is um ours
plus
is
14, I think, or something
no,
like minus
minus
14,
minus
13.
13, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to say that we've only scored 16 and we've conceded 4 fewer goals than Man City. So, I mean, without going down that rabbit hole, if you think about that, but there are signs that Bournemouth and Southampton, wishful thinking there, are real contenders. You know, to to be in the, or there's very much more to be said for them being in the relegation zone as the season winds up than there is.
Mm,
And I certainly think that the Leeds game being a 6-pointer, we've still got to play Bournemouth, the last game of the season, which could be pivotal. Let's hope it's not.
of course, it's last game. Yeah. Oh, it's coming
Yeah.
back to me now. It's echoing.
Oh, sorry.
Wasn't echoing a second ago.
Is it me?
It was a sec. It's gone. Seems to be all right now, I think.
Okay.
So I never got on the post match yesterday. Unfortunately, wasn't unfortunately. It's just the way it is. I had to work. I was working near Scarborough and Hull, and in regards to the party, and there was just absolutely no way I could get on the stream. But I did want to talk about the Leeds game, and I did want to do a final word sort of review show on this, and also reflect on the results, because unfortunately we've all been dragged into looking at all the teams around us, when actually no one really wanted to be watching Southampton games and West Ham games, but we have to. We kind of feel compelled to do it just to see how these teams are doing. But I wanted to give my thoughts on the Leeds game, and it's a fantastic result, and it really was a 6-pointer, Jan. You're talking about how close the teams were. Leeds would have gone something like 4 points ahead of us if they'd won and created that little gap. I think we'd be rock bottom, honestly, because Southampton won and Bournemouth won. So it was the biggest result of our season so far, potentially, against a team that. What's going on?
I'm sorry, I've had a slight mistake with the light. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it was a massive result, and we couldn't have afforded to lose the game, and the fact we got a win is fantastic. And I haven't given my thoughts on it, so if that's okay, I'm going to kind of review the game, and you can give me a 2 pence worth. But when I saw, hi Bob, Jan's getting raided. When I saw the team, I thought there's not a lot of mobility in the side. I mean, you look at Leeds United; they have a lot of players who've got quite a lot of pace and are quite good in the transition. I was quite concerned also about Wilfred Gnotto, who plays left midfield for Leeds, and that they would have a bit of high energy in that midfield to move around us. But Dyche stuck to the guns. He stuck to his guns and went with a team that possibly other people wouldn't have gone with. I mean, there was clamour for Ben Godfrey. There was clamour for Damari Gray from the channel, but also just in the Everton community. I think a lot of people wanted to see a little bit more mobility in the team. And also there was a very big debate over Ellis Sims and Neil Maupay, but he gave Neil the opportunity to play the game. No goals in 28 games, but for what it's worth, put himself about and couldn't have asked an awful lot more, given, the service. But Everton, I think, were fully in control of the match. I think this is the second win now at home on the bounce, and it wasn't because the other team necessarily didn't turn up. I mean, Leeds didn't play well, but we deserved to win. We were the better team yet again. We were better against Arsenal. We were better against Leeds.
I mean, although you can say that Coleman's goal was I wouldn't say a fluke, because you could see that he clearly aimed for it. Meslier was off his line. There was no one else in the box, so he wouldn't have been crossing. But if that was a bit of an anomaly or an aberrant goal, there were times when we should have scored previous to that. Decore had a shot, or should have had a shot, and played through. There were times when balls could have been played through. There were times in the first half when we were knocking on the door, and I was just going, why aren't you shooting? Why aren't you hitting that first time or making a yard of space? And then it was going across goal. So one way or another, there was a goal in that game, and we got what we deserved.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go through it from start to finish. So, yeah, I mean, I was slightly concerned about the team. I wasn't particularly excited about the team. It didn't lift me. It didn't excite me. But I think we're all in the same boat. Apologies, by the way. Today, I'm not probably as animated as normal. I got in at 3:30 last night because I had to drive literally straight back from, the Hull area where I was, and I was absolutely exhausted. So I'm flagging a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to try and put some good content out here. Very early on in the game, you could see the shape 4-3-4-5-1. Onana and Decore are tasked with pressing forward into those sort of channels and support the striker. Onana had a really good chance quite early on in the game, but he seemed to lack a bit of conviction on his left foot. It was just within the first 5 minutes of the match.
That was the one that flew high over the bar, was it?
No, this was the one where he kind of has acres of space to drive into, and he just doesn't look comfortable. I don't know what it is, maybe in that position in the midfield three, but he didn't look great against Leeds compared to Decore. I thought Decore and Garner completely outshone him. And what I liked about Everton's play was there was no fuss involved, Jan. It was simple, and yet it was effective. And we did look a threat in that first half.
Yeah.
We had a couple of big opportunities. Neil Maupay had a couple of shots blocked, but one thing that I thought was really impressive, that the first Everton move, which I think probably we should have done better with, Idrissa Gana Gueye makes a great run down the right-hand side. I think he nutmegs a player and pulls it back to Amadou Onana, and he's kind of leaning back and skies it over. But you should have done better, shouldn't he, Jan?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think in that position, and especially the promise that he shows in so many other elements of his game, maybe it's a case of he's young and he might not just have that composure to take a second. And sometimes, footballers get caught up in the moment. Clearly, he's passionate. Clearly, he's. But yeah, as I was just about to say, there's something about his style of play that suggests that he's carrying a minor injury. And the Blues has just said he's been playing through an injury since the Arsenal game. Exactly that.
He's uncomfortable, isn't he? He looked uncomfortable in the match. He went down a couple of times. But I do think there's some technical deficiencies in his game and that could work on. And I think he was a bit outshone by a very, very high-level Gana Gueye and a very high-level Decore in that match, finishing aside. But yeah, that was a massive chance. And you could tell sort of after the first 10 minutes, Everton were in full control. And Leeds gave us a lot of space. Leeds didn't press us as well. I don't think Patrick Bamford is particularly good up front for them. He looks a shadow of the player that was in their first season. And we were allowed to play.
He looked despondent. Every ball that was going through that wasn't easy for him to reach. A lot of the game that you play is especially as a striker, when you're away from home, a lot of the game that you play is out of possession. You're chasing down, you're doing a high press, or you're cutting the lanes. You're giving options, you're drawing men off to make sort of momentary runs or feints, and he seemed like he was like, I expect more than what I'm getting here, and I'm fed up, which is the sign of someone who's, there are all these signs, as we were saying last season, that like, for instance, there were signs that Leeds were going to go down when they were getting and us at times. We were getting red cards. We were getting despondent, heads down, not chasing the game, giving up on a game plan. And
becoming a bit of a mess and a bit of a headless chicken sort of side. And that's the thing that I said to you before, and we will talk about all the results towards the end of this segment. But, there's no teams that look particularly like that, making such bad howlers every game. And Leeds did give us a lot of space. They gave us time on the ball. If you look at this compared to something like Arsenal, I think there was less long balls. Although we did play a lot of long balls, there was less long balls. We did try and play football through the thirds. We kept the ball well. We didn't give the ball away well. And I felt like we were fully in control, but we were waiting for a moment. And Onana's chance was the first of a big moment. But there was an opportunity down at the Park End side where I sit, where I think it was Decore has to get a shot away. Yeah. The moment I'm referring to?
Vaguely, yeah.
And he's just too slow to get the shot away. And you felt like Leeds were on the ropes. We built a bit of nice momentum here, and this was something I absolutely loved. The corners, the lofted high corners to the back post, seem to be very effective. There's not a lot of pace on them, is there, Ian? But it always just seems to be the bigger, stronger man at the back post who gets the header, and it was James Tarkowski who gets the initial contact with it. I believe then Neil Maupay flicks it on, and it's headed off the line. And that was a big opportunity for us.
It's almost like sometimes, and even afterwards, was it that or a similar incident where there was a clamour in the box and then we just didn't make the most of it, and before you knew it, we're going back towards the centre circle, and it's reminiscent of that line from the IT crowd. That's the trouble with Arsenal. They try and walk it into the box. It seems that no player is willing to take that chance of a shot because they almost want the guaranteed goal, which suggests a fragility and a lack of confidence again, which comes from, well, maybe not a lack of confidence, but it's a lack of how do you find the word? It's not confidence, it's not self-belief, but when you're down, when you through multiple games of the season and multiple managers and several years of calamitous results, if stuff doesn't pay off, you go like, well, we need a goal to win this game. What's the point in taking a shot? We need to guarantee it's going in. But then that results in overplaying.
The Blues is saying a lack of ability. I do think there's a lack of conviction in a lot of things we do. I do think there is a little bit of a lack of confidence. But I'd say without being outstanding, we were in control of the first half. We had chances. Obviously, that Neil Maupay one. But there was another one a little bit later on, and it was a direct header, I believe, from Tarkovsky into the Mellier's right-hand side of his post, and again headed off the line. And you see that the corners are becoming a real threat. Very unlucky against Liverpool not to score from one. We obviously got one against Arsenal, but if we can nick a couple of goals from corners, we look like we're going to score from a corner every match. We need that kind of edge to our game, and it's unfortunate. And maybe Leeds read it in because they had two players on the line for the corners ready to head them away. But it's definitely something Sean Dyche is giving us that edge that possibly Frank Lampard didn't really have. I think we didn't score from a corner for the first 16 or 17 matches.
Sorry, I was too busy looking at the comments coming in.
Focus.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't want to talk about too many games in the future when we don't know whether DCL is going to come back, when we don't know how. It's just the rub of the green, and you build momentum from them. So I mean, what is it this weekend? We've got Villa, and then are we away to? Oh, crikey!
Hey, and you're losing focus. I'm talking about corners, and you're talking about Aston Villa.
Sorry. I was just thrown by David B saying he doesn't own enough underwear to worry about relegation this season. And I completely lost all focus in what you were saying, Ryan. Sorry. Yeah. But I think that's a necessity. I mean, ordinarily, you think about when you score, I don't know, 60, 70 goals a season. And you think, well, when a team scores, let's say 60, 70 goals a season, if that's at all possible, you expect 2/3 of those to come from open play to some extent, half to 2/3 to come from open play. But when you've got to rely so heavily on those corners or free kicks, penalties, and let's not even talk about penalties, it's because of a lack of strike force, strike power, and conviction and ability in front of goal to get those open play goals. So yeah, I think we have to rely on those corners because it's using a team's weakness. If you put a team under pressure, it's like there is a cauldron atmosphere at Goodison, and when we get a corner, we almost cheer it as if it's half a goal already, as if we know that there's a goal potential here. And even when we were playing terribly, you go, yes, we've got a corner. Come on, Bruce.
Can I just say something there where you talk about cauldron? Although the corners are fantastic and I'm impressed, I think we will get goals. Goodison Park was flat as a pancake before kickoff yesterday. It was the most flat atmosphere I can remember in a while. And I don't quite know what that was, but certainly before they did the tribute to the late Christian Atsu, rest in peace, there was no atmosphere. And I mean, I say that and I'm not having a go at people, but I'm just stating it as a fact. I was there. I was getting very wound up in that game and I was very vocal and loud and I tried to start some of the chants and stuff like Everton, even for the corners. But it was just like a bunch of people who were just fed up, couldn't be arsed. We were there to watch it and not much else.
And Derby, though. Come on, mate.
No, but it's a massive, massive game against Leeds. And I don't know if you could sense it. The Blues are saying it was so bad, but it was noticeably bad. But I think it got better because the team showed something. I think the team has to initially lift the crowd, and it did, and it worked, and we had those chances, we had those corners. Onana had a big opportunity. Doucouré should have taken a shot. I think Onana actually had another opportunity. He was playing sort of like as a third man, trying to come into that supporting position. But I think at half time, I was quite frustrated that we hadn't gone in with a goal. I felt like we were worth one or two goals.
Yeah, it was like it's very much like the
Hi, Kevin.
The Spurs Leicester game when you go in at half time, and or at least it was 1-0 at half time, wasn't it? Spurs Leicester, was it?
I didn't see that one.
Okay. Well, but the thing is, if you go in at half time and it's 0-0, you're worried that the other team are going to be galvanized, that they're going to have some feedback from the manager and the coaches and the people sitting in the stands to get a more rounded view of the match on both sides. They're going to come in and say, hey, this is where Everton are strong, this is where they're weak. Come on and capitalize and shut it down. And yeah.
Paul makes a good point. He says only so many times you can rally the team. And I do really sympathise with that, and I do feel that sentiment as well. That it's hard to get up for a match when you look at the team and you think, "Fucking hell, our best player was our worst player 3 years ago," and it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like we know these players aren't good enough. We know kind
Was it
of that
because
there
my
isn't
poem
this.
was a bit flat?
No, I don't think so. Good evening, Paul. Good evening, Alan. Good evening, Kevin. Thank you for joining the stream. Cheers, Ray. Thank you, Blue
Yeah,
Nose
everyone.
WK Dublin, Richo, and Karen, everyone. Thanks for coming on. Look, it's just a very chilled stream tonight. We had nothing better to do. Well, I certainly didn't. I am feeling a bit worn out, though, so I'm sorry if I'm not on 100% form.
It's all right.
But the setup's good now, isn't it? We've got a good setup. I'm loving the microphone position in the middle of the screen.
Thank you very much.
You look well lit as well.
That's literally from light. I'm not like, drunk.
Yeah. And I love the fact you're in Goodison Park as well.
Thank you. And also my special vape pen has this strange...
Oh, that's fantastic. So you can vape on stream without anyone actually knowing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a green screen.
You're holding a little piece of Goodison with you.
I know. Well,
Very good.
I am going to have to speak to them at some point to see if when we move, they will let me take the 2 seats that my dad and I sat in for like 10 years. You know what I mean?
I think they are going to. They're going to sell them.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we've paid a total of, I don't know what, like £10,000 over the last 10 years in that particular seat before we moved, or after we moved. So I think I bloody own them.
It's a drop in the ocean. It's a drop in the ocean, your £10,000. And this club is about making money. They will charge. And also, they're attached to railings. You'll need to find some way of supporting the seats, because certainly the park end seats, they just flap down. They're actually attached to the metal bars. They're not standalone seats.
No. There's wooden things connecting the railing. It's like benches. You have the wrought iron at the side, and yeah.
But I'm sure they'll do something. You're not the only one who's gonna want to take the seat. I'd take the seat home and burn it. I'm only joking. If we get relegated, I will though. No, I'm not. I don't want to lose subs. Ignore that comment. I'm just frustrated. I'm just frustrated and wound up. But at the same time, I'm absolutely ecstatic and delighted that we won. I don't know if I could be the two things at the same time. But anyway, moving into the second half, quite early on, there was a ball across the box. Dwight McNeil gets an opportunity and sort of like a half volley sort of shot across the face of goal goes wide. So we need a little bit more quality. Leeds were trying to get into the game a little bit, but Everton, I do think the sort of the chances were drying up for us a little bit in the second half. I don't think we were quite as effective going forward. I didn't really sense that we were as good. Maybe we didn't create as many, but Neil Maupay had a good shot on the turn. And then again, in that sort of 60-minute mark that you seem to be liking, 64 minutes this time, Seamus Coleman's goal out of nowhere. And to be honest, I felt like the goal would come, but also I was watching it and thinking that there wasn't really a clear route at this point in the second half. I thought Leeds were coming into the game whilst we were comfortable defensively. And I thought Everton's defence was, by the way, absolutely exceptional. Winning all the second balls. We completely dominated the midfield battle. The defense read everything. They were in the right positions that they needed to be. They fought as a team. They worked for each other. I absolutely have a lot of credit for that midfield and the central defense, but I didn't know where the goal was going to come from, although I still held that belief that we would score. And that Coleman goal, Jan, you kind of, I don't know whether you did the same, but me and David, we just kind of were like, what the hell? Is it gone out of play? The ball stopped, did the whistle blown, and he just hit it in. It was like slow motion. And then we realized we scored and started jumping up and down.
Yeah, where I'm sat is Lower Bullens, street end side of the Lower Bullens, sort of near the edge of the centre circle, right underneath the stanchion, the sort of the TV gantry. In a way, you look up and see it, and it's up there, right? So the angle it was, you don't always get to see the correct flight or of the ball, and Jazz and I were sort of sat next to each other. Well, just seeing him running down, thinking, "Oh, great, he's going to hold it up, or he's going to flick it back and then pass it back, and then some players are going to catch up, and maybe it's going to be a cross ball into the box or something." Next thing I know, whacked it. I'm like, "But there's nobody in the box," and there was this half second where I don't know, we just saw the ripple of the net, the side of the net, and it was just a,
Yeah,
you know, it was just unreal. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it was like a slow motion thing, and then started the elation. But the finish was fantastic. I mean, for Seamus to catch up with the ball, hold off defender, have the awareness to understand there's no one in the box, that the keeper's off his line, and that from that angle and that far out, it's very, very difficult finish. And as he said in his interview, we could do that 20 more times and might not score.
yeah.
But it was a massive goal. And I felt like the game, although I say we were dominating, I felt like the midfield was in control. We were winning all the second balls. We nullified the Leeds threat completely. And we just defended very resolutely. We were comfortable. You know, Leeds didn't have a shot on target. We were very comfortable, but I did feel like maybe the attacking impetus was slipping kind of around the 60-minute mark. And I was thinking maybe time to bring Damari Gray on. Awobi was losing a few balls, and
It's why their
McNeil
heads
was.
went down. It's why their heads went down when we scored, because it was almost like they'd started turning the tide, and we stopped it. We were King Canute, ordering the tide to not come in. Just
You're
got to
watching
say as well,
Vikings again. Cool.
yeah. Mr. Toffees, I could do, but I already feel guilty enough that Ryan and the rest of the team started up a GoFundMe for my dad. Like, yeah. Kevin said Everton's making us upset. Ryan, it's having an effect on all of us. No problem, Kevin, because I think the Blues is in here again tonight. I'm pretty sure it just gets forgotten afterwards. I wouldn't worry about it. Mark says, I've spoken to some fans and they said that he thinks Everton need to go down to get better, but we don't want to happen in next season as we're starting the new ground at the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to go down to get better. I think you can only have 5 million losses in the Championship. It would be an absolute disaster. There's some funny comments just before I get to the rest of this game. Blue Nose WD KD Dublin. Blue Nose, we need your name, please, because it makes it so much easier. I keep tongue twistering this, and you've been watching our show for months and months. We love you here. We love you here, as we love everyone. Thank you so much. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe, turn notifications on, and hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, please. Bluebill is saying, Bluebill's planning a paint job on the wooden seats to increase value and put your money into the pot for a new striker. That's a very funny one. The Blues are saying, did anyone witness Mikalenko taking players on, having shots and completing crosses? He played well, didn't he? He looked a lot more comfortable. There was a couple of his classic sort of misread the situation and the players gone past him. But, it was a couple of times and, it was, we were quite well structured to deal with it. But I felt like he did get forward. He offered a bit of width. His crossing is mixed. Obviously, he's got no technique or flair, but he had a shot on target as well, didn't he, Jan? The signs that he could be useful.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily just dump him out and go for Vinagre, especially if Vinagra's only on loan, isn't he? So
Vinagra's nowhere near at it, and he wasn't at Wolves, but it was the clamour for Ben Godfrey. It was people saying they wanted Ben Godfrey at left back because he wasn't defending well, and if he can't defend, then he's redundant because he doesn't attack. So, but he had a great game, and Trevor.
Ryan,
yeah, sorry.
Shall we move on to the other results of the weekend?
No, we're talking about the match.
But we did a bloody post-match.
Leeds is set. Trevor Longmore saying Leeds is the worst team we've seen in Leeds in years. They were really, really bad. Really, really bad. There wasn't a lot else that happened in the game, in fairness. Tom Davis came on for Onana quite late on. We were looking a bit nervous at that point. I felt like even though Onana didn't have a good game, we lost a little bit of that sort of authority in the midfield. Would you say with Davis coming in?
I don't know. I mean, I've always been a bit of a fan of Davies because he's happy to be a squad player, and it's part of the job of managing and having an effective team is you need to have man management. You need to have players that are happy to be squad players and not always starting 11. You obviously want people to push on and to have that hunger to be that, absolutely. But I don't think that I don't think it's fair to say, if he's accepted his limitations, if he hasn't become the player that maybe there were the hopes that he would be as a youngster,
Yeah.
he's relatively solid, and I'm happy with that. He's not a liability, as maybe he was when he was younger, trying to be something that he wasn't or couldn't be. Maybe he just hasn't found the right style of play. Maybe he will under Dyche. I don't know. But
I personally think he needs to move on because I don't think that he will find his niche at Everton. And he really wound me up actually at one point in the game. Although he worked hard, he instead of just trying to protect the ball and pass it, he kind of like does this thing where he falls over to try and win a foul and like feels the contact, win the foul, didn't win the foul. And Leeds actually overloaded us and nearly scored. And it really wound me up that moment. It was not now, Davis, not in this type of game. The pressure's so high, just get rid of it or protect the ball in terms of giving it to one of your players. Don't just fall over to try and win a foul.
To be fair, I also like Davis because I used to live near the Bommy in town, and I used to see him quite a fair bit around there and Bold Street, and he used to do quite a lot for the homeless, and go into local businesses there. And he's just a really sound fella. I used to talk to him a few times. He's genuinely loves Everton.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a top guy.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's a top guy. Garner Gay in that midfield as well. Absolutely back to his best, mopping up everything in there. Decore was everywhere and anywhere. And not really a lot happened. And Leeds tried to get a foothold in it, but we broke up play really well with some fouls and throws and getting it in the corner and kind of disrupting the flow of Leeds to stop them doing anything. We snuffed out everything. And Sims came on late for Neil Mopay. And it was an impressive little cameo from Sims. The touch was good. His movement was decent. And he looked to cause a problem there.
Yeah, it's but I think that the signs there that he's doing things in the right way. He's holding the ball up, he's playing off, give and go, and he's doing it. Sometimes the execution isn't of the standard that you'd want, but he's 22, 21, 22. So there's room there for improvement, especially when he's just come back after being on loan in places. That I do think that there's something there that we might get a chance to see.
I do hope so. And that was it really. Apart from one thing at the end that I did want to highlight, Ellis Sims, great link up, holds the ball up, plays it into midfield to Decore, who was everywhere and anywhere, and shows the energy, enthusiasm that was old Decore. And you screaming. I mean, I had to leave 2 minutes before the end to make sure I got to my work. So I was like, just put it in the frigging goal so I can go. It's like he's the absolute reluctance to not touch his left foot. It's almost like a Dwight McNeil-esque reluctance to use his weak foot. And you just think, even if you toe poke it with your right into the goal, the keeper was not really, he was not going to be able to save it. And Decore, he just kind of like does nothing. Tries to come back onto his right, and the chance is gone. And it's that kind of, I'd say we did everything well, but we just missed that elite level of finishing in that game.
I would like to say, did you notice the one thing that was, forgive me, everyone watching, thank you for this, but the one thing that was the most important thing about going to the match yesterday?
That's lovely.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that. I've not seen that.
Did you not?
That's very nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on that note, we'll move over to the results for today and yesterday. So Aston Villa who were our next opponents were 2-0, were 2-1 up against Arsenal and ended up losing 4-2.
I have to say, I watched this and I watched the highlights of it. It's fantastic, really, how they got back to 2-2, and the third and fourth goal for Arsenal both came in injury time, and one of them was incredibly unlucky. A shot that came back out that came back off the bar, bounced down, and hit Emiliano Martinez on the back of the head, and then went back in the goal. So then, when Villa had a corner, he foolishly, according to Dracula, Unai Emery, ran up and decided to get involved and crowd out and try to make up for his cock up, or felt maybe responsible. And then they cleared it. Arsenal on the break, bang, 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 ran down, and
yeah, brilliant. I can't stand Emi Martinez. I think he's an arrogant twat, and didn't forgive him for falling out with Yerry Mina, and his antics in the World Cup were disrespectful. But yeah, I mean, I'm not so bothered who wins the league, I've got to be honest. But I'd like to see more teams kind of slipping into this sort of relegation battle. So I'm quietly happy that Aston Villa lost. I don't think they're quite attainable, but I think they could be vulnerable. Yeah, I'm just looking at this here myself. Villa are 28 points. So if we were to beat Villa,
10 points between there's 10 points between 11th and 20th, mate.
Yeah, there's not a lot in it at all. But yeah, you seem to recall that match with a lot of joy and enthusiasm. It must have been a comical last few minutes, I would like to see. Brentford and Palace. Palace are a team that haven't won in 6. Got a lucky result last week against Brighton, I believe. And they got the point at Brentford. I was quite surprised, actually, that Brentford didn't dispatch them with ease. But Crystal Palace got the point. And would you say Palace could still get dragged into it there based on the table and their form?
I mean, I think they could. I mean, you seem to... Was it you or Mabsy or Jeff seem to think that it's possible?
They haven't got a lot of goals.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to look at the table here. Yeah, no, not really. I mean, let's have a look at who have they got to play. Liverpool, Villa, Man City, Brighton, Arsenal, Leicester, Leeds, Southampton, us.
Probably nearly everyone. I mean, there's still a fair few amount of games left. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still 16 games. They could get sucked into it, in my opinion. I think Palace don't have a lot of goals in them. And I think since they lost Conor Gallagher as well, I think they lost a bit of edge in midfield. But moving on, anyway, Brighton was a shock result. I mean, this one didn't affect us at all, but Brighton losing at home to Fulham. Brighton are a great team away from home, and they've got so much quality. But at home, probably not as good. 1-0 defeat to Fulham. Fulham actually play Wolves in the Friday night fixture this week. We could do with Fulham keeping that nice form and dispatching Wolves. That would be brilliant. We'll talk about this weekend's fixtures as well, or we could do that as a separate show in the midweek if you want, Jan. Chelsea, Southampton. This is the one that pissed me off.
Chelsea, like you saw the highlights from that game. Chelsea should have won that. Chelsea should have won that. There was glass in front of the goal. How they didn't get a goal or 4 is beyond me. But equally, you look at Chelsea and something hasn't gelled with them yet. The way that they're attacking, it's mind-boggling. I don't know.
So many players. I mean, they made 6 substitutions in that match. Someone must have had a head injury. 6 substitutions.
Cesar Azpilicueta got kicked in the head and was taken to hospital.
Is this the one they were talking about with the overhead kick?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I mean, I don't blame the guy. He was going for an overhead kick backwards, and you'd expect, and Azpilicueta is quite he does put himself on the line. And he jumped in forwards with his head right to the side of the player. So, I mean, it's unlucky. I don't think there was any malice in it. I mean, clearly the guy was shook. Yeah.
But they were talking about banning it, and then they were saying, no, it's stupid. But I'm looking at that Chelsea team, Jan, and they've signed 600 million's worth of players. They already bought in, like, Wesley Fofana from Leicester, the centre-back. I don't know where he is. He didn't play for them.
Why would you? But I don't understand what caliber Fofana brings to Chelsea that...
The defensive Fofana was a brilliant centre-back, but there's nowhere to be seen. And they've got the striker, David Fofana. They've got João Felix. I don't rate Mason Mount. Enzo Fernandez has obviously got a lot of quality, but they're still playing. The fact they're still playing with likes of Azpilicueta and Arrizabalaga, it's a bit of a weird mess of a team. It doesn't really make any sense. It almost reminds me of kind of like a scattergun approach to signings. They've got Raheem Sterling, who's coming off the bench, Havertz, Mudryk, Gallagher. They've got a lot of players, but it's almost like they don't know how to use them.
It's
And
yeah.
I'm surprised, really. I really am, with that
But
level
then
of talent
also
as well,
they
individually.
lost two very good players in Jorginho and um, who else was it went to Arsenal?
It was Jorginho went to Arsenal.
Yeah, and who was the other player they got rid of? That was, and I can't remember. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Excuse me, sorry, I am feeling a bit rough. But that is a big squad, and you'd expect them to get it right. But it was interesting that Southampton played. They also made 6 substitutions. Sulemana and Onuachu played up front together for Southampton. Did you manage to catch the highlights of this game? Obviously, you
for
did.
what, Chelsea Southampton?
Did either of those 2 signings that we missed out on there, Sulemana or Onuachu, play well for them?
I can't honestly say, mate. I mean, I was more focused on I was looking at it going, how did Chelsea not score?
Yeah.
And sometimes I can't pay that much attention all the time I was still riding the high of what the hell happened to us? How did we get 3 points today? Um, Sorry. No,
Yeah.
I don't really know. I mean, I suppose you're wondering, is that a prospect for how Southampton are going to do? Don't know.
Yes, because I am worried that Everton are going to struggle against anyone who's better than Leeds, just with this lack of DCL. I mean, I don't want to. I'm bored of talking about Calvert-Lewin and his injuries, but yeah, we need him back and we need him fit, and I just don't know when this is going to be and for how long for,
Well,
because we are a bit blunt, and I think against better teams defensively, someone like Neil Maupay and Decore will be easily brushed aside because they
but the
aren't
thing
attacking players that are top level, are they?
the thing that really did it for Southampton, I don't, from what I recall, there were some moments, but Chelsea were very much on top. And what did it for Southampton was Ward-Prowse, typical bottom left-hand corner free kick
Yeah.
from the left-hand side. It's
Don't give
yeah.
away silly fouls against Southampton and stop them. But I don't believe either of the 2 new signings have scored for them yet. Moving on, obviously, Everton won. Forest and Man City. I mean, I don't think Forest are going to be in that relegation battle by the looks of it. Are they winning a lot of games? And they managed to salvage a point with literally the last kick of the game against Man City.
I have to ask the question though of at what point are Forest going to fall foul of financial fair play with all the players they've bought, the
I was
wages that
thinking this.
yeah.
If Forest were to get relegated, surely they'd be in an absolute mess.
They just have to terminate contracts, but then they'd have several. I have no idea. Maybe. I mean, you'd certainly think these days that clubs, especially considering the narrow or the similarity between 20th and 10th, and there's not that much of a difference between. And we said this before. There's the top handful of teams, and then besides that, there's a very much of a muchness. It's a gradual scale. There's not trenches of teams anymore. We used to be within that second category of we're not going to win the league, but we can compete for Europe.
We're the best of the rest, and we were hoping to get into that sort of next level. And
Yeah.
at one point, I mean, I don't want to go over old ground, but we did have the foundations there, but we totally blew it. Emma is saying teams need to not give James Ward-Prowse free kicks. He never misses. He's very
17 or 18
reliable.
he scored. Yeah, he's
One off
beaten.
David Beckham.
Yeah.
And Kelly's looking forward to our next game. She says that Villa have won 4 of the last 6 games against us, and there's been 2 draws. I mean, that's not looking good. Villa have got players on paper that will cause us problems. It's just whether we can be very good defensively and then affect the game. And we'll talk about that on our preview on Thursday.
And we'll just have to attack. We'll have to attack on the right wing and prey on Lucas Dini's weakness, which is
Lucas Dini
playing him. Yeah, challenging.
He's not good when you run at him. I would be tempted maybe to bring in Damari Gray and just say run at Lucas Dean because he overcommits.
Stick Iwobi on the right. Give him a fucking good running. Go on there, lad.
Onana might be injured though. He's got this knee injury and he might miss out, in which case Iwobi moves into midfield or James Garner, and then that leaves space up for Damari Gray. So that's something we'll discuss in our preview.
Wolves Bournemouth.
Yep. 2 more results. My battery's on 6%.
Okay, well, I'll keep it quick. What I will say about Wolves Bournemouth in my mind is I'm not saying it would have been better as a draw, I think. Yeah. Fewest points, because it's 3 points for a win and 1 for a draw. However,
I agree.
The silver lining for me is if Bournemouth have
one sec.
Okay. Well, what I will say while Ryan is disappearing and doing other stuff is what I will say about Bournemouth is they are clearly in the relegation battle, and if they can manage to keep Wolves there, it's not like there's a team of Sunderland on 9 points. There seems to be a bit of a battle for all three spaces, and that would still be the case if Bournemouth would have been 3 points behind. So the fact that they're potentially embroiling Wolves in it when they're very hit and miss seems to me like that's a silver lining from that.
Mm.
Is all I can say.
Anyone can go down. And I feel like although Wolves, again, like the other teams, have got quality on paper and aren't terrible, i.e., there's no teams that are losing 3-4-5-0 every week.
Yeah,
Like we talked about there with the Sunderlands and the Sheffield Uniteds,
yeah.
just not allowing them to get away and pull away from us helps. I wouldn't have
Well,
liked to have
Wolves
seen
are
them win.
Wolves are away at Fulham, as you say, on Friday night. Even if they get a draw, if we win against Villa, we'll go above them on goal difference.
Exactly. So for me, Wolves now losing that game
Yeah,
sucks Wolves back into the mix. Whereas I think if they'd have won that match,
yeah.
let's say they'd be on 26, they'd be in joint 12th. Bournemouth would be on 18 points in the bottom three behind West Ham.
Yeah,
But again, you've got to at this time now, you've got to focus on yourself. How many points can we get on the board? Not how many can they drop. And I think if we keep winning games, if we can
yeah.
win, if we're picking up this average of 2 points a game, we'll be comfortable with time to spare. But I think we need to be realistic. I would anticipate we won't get 3 points against Aston Villa. I think that will be a draw. I think Aston Villa have got quality. I don't think a draw would be a terrible result, but I do worry about who we're picking up the points. You'd say, actually, we actually do need to win that game against Villa. It's a home match. They're not one of the top teams. So, yeah, actually, we need to probably make sure we get the 3 points against Aston Villa one way or another and make it uncomfortable for them. But Wolves
Can we,
getting sucked into it.
Ryan? Can we just gloss very briefly? Can we just gloss over the Newcastle Liverpool game because
I was
what I
just
will
going to
just
say that Newcastle were robbed.
yes, because I mean here's the thing, Melier, I don't know what he was doing. Not Melier. What's his
Pope.
name? Pope, Nick Pope. He had he had a moment of madness. He should have just kicked it out, done something. He didn't. He was falling down. He didn't necessarily need to do that, but I think it was instinct. It was the goalkeeper's instinct of constantly, if you're going down and the ball is loose, it's muscle memory. It's second nature. You go down, the ball's there. And then he stopped himself. What am I doing? What am I doing? I'm about 20 yards out of my goal. Right. It does seem a bit daft that is an instant red when you get instances I mean, the foul that Fabinho made in that game, and he only gets a yellow. The foul he made in a game against Wolves didn't even get a yellow.
Look,
And
Liverpool always get the rub of the green when it comes to the red card decisions. They get them
yeah,
for them, and they don't get sent off when they make persistently bad ankle snapping studs
yeah.
up challenges, and it happens week in week out. But
In terms,
for a team that had 10 men, Newcastle created a lot of chances.
yeah,
They could have scored ample goals, and Liverpool were lucky to get the red card. I mean, if the laws of the game are the laws of the game, irrespective of that, you know, it was Newcastle probably should have scored, but as Marcus pointed out, they were already 2-0 up when he got sent
yeah.
off. So I suppose my point is completely redundant.
I mean, I think when he says it has to be, sorry, the Blues says has to be a red. And Woozy says, is it weird getting a red for that? No, let's just, I'll just point out
Newcastle
that,
weren't robbed. They were 2-0
no,
down already. It
they
was
were.
just
What I will just point out is
they weren't terrible.
he didn't take down Salah and then by intentionally handling the ball over it and foul him. He challenged for the ball stupidly. What I will just say is he challenged for the ball and headed it. And then it went down, and as he's falling, just instinctively, I think it's the muscle memory, the goalkeeper's response of, right now. If you're discussing that it's not automatically a red card for certain dogs, so what we used to be dogs, so right? Then I think there should be some allowances for because the keeper didn't necessarily bring him down. He challenged for the ball and he hit it with his head first. Now, if we're talking as well about how it wasn't, was it Kufal or there was the Aston Villa player or West Ham player who um, didn't get penalised for the handball
Against
before.
Chelsea.
Yeah, and then also in today's game when Richarlison took a shot and it handled it and he wasn't going down, and that's not a penalty. So what I'm saying is, um, if there's those sorts of
Stupid. You
discrepancies,
could just fall onto the floor to save it then.
yeah. Well, if that's what we're doing, look at the number of times that
Oh, that's
the
clearer.
well, no, look at the number of times that Salah manages to hold up any opposition to hold the ball in and around the box when he's got a scoring opportunity. But if he risks losing the ball, he collapses like a feather and then handles the ball, scoops it up and go, oh, it's my free kick. And he's made the decision for the referee. Now, ordinarily, if I was a referee, I'd be going, yeah, even if it is a foul or anything like that, you've handled the ball without my whistle. You're not playing to my rules. Yellow card, red card. It's just... but the Blues is just if a player falls over and brings the striker down, last man, that's a red card. We've seen this season that it's not. That's not how it's been adjudged. Whether that should be the rule, then maybe there's discrepancies here and a lack of consistency.
Just
anyway,
on that game today, then West Ham, we were glad that West Ham lost the game, and for the first half, thought Spurs were very Spursy, huffing
very,
and
very
puffing,
boring.
but not really doing anything.
There was no magic. There was nothing ingenious. There was no moments of wow, that was wonderful. It was just very, very boring. Ordinarily, Spurs do want to play football, and they're not a dirty team. Or mostly, they're not a dirty team. They're not underhanded. They're not. They don't play. They just go to play football, and yeah, it's
West Ham look to set up shop in every game they do and nick a goal with Jared Bowen, and it was the same today. And the first half was huff and puff with no quality, and in the end, Spurs took over in that second half, and there was only one winner, and then the substitution of Son toppled it. And I was made up really to see that Tottenham had won that game, even though I can't stand them. I'm also Richarlison not scoring again. I don't think he'll last the summer. I think he'll be moved on. He doesn't fit there at all.
I can see. I am literally looking at all these comments. David, TJ, the Blues, Kevin, Mark. Everyone's saying that commenting on this handball and takedown there. It's obviously something that needs to be addressed by PGMOL. And they finally sacked Lee Mason. But yeah, the West Ham do look incredibly set up. It's to just park the bus. It's Moyes all over. It's Moyesian footballonomics.
Yeah, but in fairness, in all the games, there's not an awful lot between the teams. There's not an awful lot of goals between them. There's a lot of good defenses and a lot of sort of attacks that are not really doing an awful lot. And West Ham's an example of a team that has got maybe 2 or 3 star players. West Ham has spent a lot of money. They have got quality in every area of the pitch. They're underperforming. I don't expect Moyes to keep his job. I think West Ham should be safe. But then you say that, Jan, and you go, how many teams can we actually sit there and go, they should be okay? They're too good to go down. They're too good to go down. Well, actually, there's going to be 3 teams today, 3 teams this season that are probably too good to go down, but they're going to go down because the standard of the league's high in terms of it's very competitive. There's not a lot between them, and the defenses are very much on top. As Jan froze. I think Jan has froze.
No, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what happened. There must be my signal. And just a final result: Man United turned over Leicester, which potentially sucks them back in. But I don't think Leicester, again, they're too good to go down. And this is the recurring theme. There's too many teams that are too good to go down. So we'll probably also get another fine for the brawl, which Decore ended up losing his head in, and kind of McNeil got shoved into the hoardings.
McNeil got repeatedly shoved into the hoardings. McNeil was brought. Well, there was a combination of probably he's going to rule a foul one way or the other, and the way he landed, maybe the player took sort of umbrage to. Was it 12? Or I can't right, but and then he just got repeatedly pushed into and over the hoardings.
Yeah, I watched it in slow motion. He did kind of get shoved into the hoardings,
and then
the steward had to protect him.
Yeah. and then Melier came over and took a swing and a push at Decore and didn't get anything for it. What do you expect? You know, we don't often get. We went something like 2 years without getting a penalty until I think it was last season.
I know. I can't recall us having one this season either.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, bless him, would have come out with all these statistics about how for literally 18 months every game that Liverpool played was on TV, and all this kind of stuff. It's that. I mean, what was the one about the way that how you play injury time and overtime and extra time in European things, and the goals worth double, away goals and stuff like that, and how it was something like the way that Liverpool's draws had been done, so that they got home advantage or away advantage. It was so many standard deviations away from the norm. He worked this out once about the 300 games that they've played or ties over however many years, and it was so many standard deviations away from the norm that it was statistically impossible that it wasn't fixed. Oh God, his way with obviously was an account. It's ridiculous.
I've got no doubt, but I'm bitter that your dad would have been right and probably been fixed. And thankfully, we've brought in some more bitterness to the channel with young Amy, who absolutely hates the Reds with a passion. And Jan, I want to see all that bitterness that you've displayed just now also on future streams. I just want to thank everyone for watching and sharing this past hour. Jan's going to have to go out now because he's going to walk the dog and have a bit of quiet time. But Jan, your setup's absolutely brilliant, mate. I mean, where's the light positioned?
I've got a ring light up here. That's thank you to Ryan for getting it for the very knockdown price of £5 English. Everyone, let's just check this out. Oh, and then it goes through all the rainbow, and then it's also got
good without the green screen. Yeah, they'll see that without the green screen.
It's magic.
It's got effects. Where's the other one using? Sorry, just to clarify.
And the other one is just to my left up here. Another one identical that does all the same fancy bells and whistles for £5 English.
Oh, I really like it when you're in close. So can you get the mic? How close can you get the mic?
I mean, I can get it as close as you like, Ryan.
That is welcome to Smooth Radio. Hello, welcome.
Welcome to Follow Everton, sponsored by ASMR Radio.
And today we're going to be reflecting on Everton's 1-0 win against Leeds United. It was a great goal.
We'll be reflecting like the coolest of pools on a calm autumn evening.
And if you're listening this back, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And
oh yeah, press that button and join us next time.
And hit notifications on. And on that bombshell, we'll see you soon.
Oh yeah, be good. Be happy.
Keep well.
But most of all, be blue.
Stay safe. Is that still a thing? And Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah. So,
that sounds great. Jan, your setup's phenomenal, mate. Look, we just need to get everyone else's setup a bit better.
It's a dog, Bob. I've got a big white German Shepherd.
I had a chat with Jeff today, by the way. Good hour on the phone with him. Good hour and a half. General chit chat. And he's also buying a mic, buying a background, buying a light, buying the bells and whistles. So Jeff's getting a serious upgrade this week. So we look forward to seeing that. And that's all from us. Here's the theme tune. Thanks, Ian. See you soon. Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Be good. Thank you.